Hey, I'm Ulysse. I'm looking at games from a design perspective, trying to pick out what things I think work well and what could be better. What are we looking at? The Final Station, a resource management, survival horror 2D shooter. You play as a train conductor in a post-apocalyptic zombie virus world. The game alternates between you taking care of your train and its passengers, and moving through towns and cities, killing zombies as they appear. The most interesting thing about the game, to me, is that it's a story, with a game built around it. A story game. There's world building through dialogue, chat messages, notes, animation in the background, events, and the objects in the foreground. It has sort of a Alfred Hitchcock slow building horror vibe, like a day in the life of a guy living through the post-apocalypse. There's no music that plays when you enter combat. The main character never speaks. There's no time limit, and none of your passengers can die while you're off the train exploring. The game's always dropping subtle hints about your mission, or what happened to the world, but never that much, so you always want more. I mentioned this game is survival horror, and indeed, with all the uncertainty of what's coming next, you have to ration your resources a bit. The contents of each room, and even how big the level is revealed to you as you play. Do I save this medkit for the bleeding passenger on my train? Or do I use it on myself so I can survive the next room? Decisions. All that being said, the story really shines here because the combat actually gets to be quite repetitive pretty early on. You can just punch the zombies to death. And for the ones that run faster than you, just wind up and punch them even harder. Ah, no, it's an armored zombie that I have to shoot. Oh, wait, I can just walk past him. This allows you to save a lot of ammunition, so to make things more interesting, I was playing a different game. The Final Station. No shots fired. But even if you fuck it up badly, you can just start again from one of the frequent checkpoints, with no penalty for death, and a full health recharge once you get back on the train. It's kind of an interesting mechanic, sharing the medkits with the passengers, and scavenging for food out in the world to feed them. But given how predictable the combat is, you basically never need to actually worry about it. Something they could add to make the combat more interesting would be to remove the frequent checkpoints. Make the zombie placement slightly different each time you play the level, and then maybe add something like a dodge roll, or let the player close doors to block zombies, or lay traps. The stakes would feel a lot higher if you had to replay from the beginning of the level each time you died, but also you'd have more tools to be more creative in combat. In each level you have to collect a password so that your train can continue on to the next station. But the levels tend to be pretty linear, so the password is usually just the last thing you find. I think here, too, they could spice it up and give the player a few different routes to the password, hinting at what you might find along each way. For example, this route goes through the medical ward. There are lots of slow zombies you have to navigate around, but also there are medkits. Or, this route goes through a restaurant. Lots of cupboards and confined spaces to find faster zombies, but also a huge stock of food. Back on the train, you can hear the dialogue and look at the changing environment, but really only when you're in the passenger car and not too busy fixing the train or running to get food or a medkit for a passenger. Additionally, while you're attending to your passengers, there are often chat messages on your console, in the engine room, that you can't read unless you leave the room and miss some dialogue. Blah! They made a trade-off here between playing the game well and getting more out of the story. And I personally find this a bad trade-off. I want to know the story, that's the best part. But also, I want to maximize my stats, because it's a game. Why do I have to choose? To fix this, they could reserve the top of the screen for dialogue and chat messages, so you'd never miss them. Honestly though, I think they should have just scrapped the train part of the game, and maybe made the game one long level, where you occasionally encounter merchants or safe zones to rest up. At the very least, I don't think it makes sense to have this minigame on the train. Just let us listen to the dialogue. We're already doing that with people outside the train. Although, even off the train, there are some rooms where killing the zombies would be kind of a waste of ammo. Except for the fact that there's a damn note on the table I want to read. Because it's a story game. So you either have to spend some bullets putting down the zombies, or lure them away from the note and then double back and quickly read it while they're running towards you. I just don't think these parts of the game should be at ends like this. Alright, that's all. Goodbye.